On January 1, 2024, a young man enters the airport building in the American city of Salt Lake City in Utah. A 30-year-old guy named Kyler is going to visit his sick grandfather, who lives in another city. But after some time, completely inexplicable things begin to happen. Kyler runs through numerous halls, airport buildings, and then tries to open several doors. But what prompted the young guy to do such crazy things on the first day of the new year? Or what alarmed him? Let's find out what really happened. So, it all started when Kyler Efinger decided to visit his seriously ill grandfather. The guy lived with his parents and sister in the small town of Park City, an hour and a half from Salt Lake City Airport. Kyler arrived at the airport building at about 5 o'clock in the evening. He had a suitcase and a backpack with him. After some time, the guy must board a flight from Salt Lake City to Denver. Travel time is about 1.5 hours. When it's time for Kyler to go through security before boarding his flight, a technical hiccup occurs and airport security carefully searches his luggage. Quite a lot of time passes, and in the end the guy, along with his luggage, heads to gate A30. Here at the counter, the manager tells him that Kyler was late for his flight. Suddenly throwing his suitcase, the guy started running in an unknown direction. At one point, the camera captured him sitting on the floor in his socks, with his sneakers next to him. Next, the young man walks in socks, and in his hand he carries a pair of his shoes. The guy walks through the waiting rooms. At 21.52, he approaches the locked door of gate A2. He tries to open the door, but nothing comes out. The guy has a quick chat with the airport cleaner before rushing to the other terminal door. At the same moment, one of the airport employees reports to the control center about a violation of order involving a passenger. The guy then goes to the window and tries to break it with his shoe. After several unsuccessful attempts to break the window, the guy kicks open another door leading to the emergency exit and runs down the stairs. The following video was captured by an infrared camera and shows a Delta Airlines plane slowly taxiing onto the runway. The guy runs towards the plane, but the video suddenly ends.
Tower Delta 1505, there was a man running down the runway.
Delta 1505, affirmative. Are you boarding or are you able to depart?
We're able to go.
The pilot of Flight 1505 reported to the controller that an unknown man was running along the runway. At the same time, the dispatcher informed security that a man walked through the emergency exit of the terminal and ran out into the aircraft departure area. Security officers headed to Kyler's last known location and began canvassing the area on foot. At 9:57 p.m., they received a description of the guy's clothing. 2 minutes later, security officials reported that they had checked the youth's last known whereabouts but were unable to locate him. At 10:02 p.m., dispatchers provided updated information about the guy's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Kyler Efinger ran up to Delta Air Alliance Flight 2348 bound for San Francisco. At that moment, there were 95 passengers on board the plane, and the plane was preparing to take off.
Delta 2348, a guy on foot?
Yeah, might be the guy you're looking for.
Delta 2348, thanks. Yeah, just hold your position there, and if you can keep an eye on him, keep me posted where he's at.
Well, the ice crew might have a better eye on him. He ran from the front to the back.
At 11:06 p.m., Kyler's personal belongings, including clothing and shoes, were found on the runway. Immediately, information is received that the young man is under the engine of the plane, and he climbs up. The security service asked air traffic controllers to notify the pilot to turn off the plane's engines. The pilot promptly complied with this instruction. 1 minute later, Kyler Efinger were found in the aircraft's engine intake by the arriving rescue team. His body was partially in the turbine. The rescue team pulled the guy out of the air intake. He was unconscious and received emergency medical treatment at the scene, including artificial respiration. But all these attempts were in vain. Kyler Efinger died without regaining consciousness. Officials also said the Airbus A220-100 was de-iced before taking off for San Francisco. When Kyler was discovered, the plane's engines continued to spin quietly. If the engines had rotated much more strongly, the guy would certainly have been sucked into the ventilation compartment of the turbine, and there would have been little left of him. Overall, this incident did not have any impact on the airport's operations. But why did this happen to a 30-year-old guy? What is the reason for his inappropriate actions? 1 year before the events, Kyler's parents moved to another city. Kyler remained living in Park City, where he worked at a local hotel. According to his father, Judd, his son had a good life. As a child, Kyler was a bright and very energetic child. A lot of guys just laughed at him for being hyperactive, but he always had good intentions. For those who didn't know Kyler, his father described him as a sensitive child, but friendly and outgoing, who loved to ski and play soccer. Kyler's nervous system problems began after he graduated from high school, but before that he was often the target of ridicule at school. However, the bullying from his peers continued into college, but Kyler could never fully understand why people treated him the way he did. At the age of 20, doctors diagnosed the guy with bipolar disorder. That evening, January 1, Kyler was detained by airport security. He missed his flight and started calling his father about rebooking. But my father said that missing a flight is not a good thing. After the conversation, it appears that Kyler suddenly went into a relapse phase in his head. Previously, such phases ended badly for the guy, and obviously this time was the worst of all. His father says the cause of death was most likely a mechanical injury to the head, rather than an air intake. In this regard, Mark Light, an experienced aircraft mechanic, reports that the engines hang close to the ground and are easy to climb up to if necessary. Some details about this case have not yet been disclosed, but we will monitor developments and will definitely inform you of the outcome of the investigation.